What is up, guys? William here from fitnessforbackpain.com, where I teach you how to overcome persistent chronic low back pain by mastering your mindset, improving your movements, and building smarter strength. I'm excited for today's video. I want to show you my deep squat hip stretch. I do this the majority of the time after my workouts. I don't do this before my workouts. I do it after my workouts, and sometimes in between my workout days. So it's almost kind of like a daily recovery kind of practice that I do. I'm not a huge fan of stretching. I do sit a lot, so I like to try to make sure that my hips are open, I'm not getting tight, or I'm not creating habits in the way I sit or stand or walk or squat that are gonna affect me in the long run, right? It's about adding some movement, adding some better range of motion and more control over range of motion through specific stretches. Let's jump in. Essentially what you're gonna do is you're gonna take a few different squatting positions that may or may not fit as far as how you squat specifically, but we're gonna use it to get some movement and some mobility and a little bit of stretching into this hip and low back area. So what you're gonna want is something that you can grab onto. Essentially, you're just gonna be using this to kind of keep you up because you want to be able to focus on the stretching and not so much the kind of the balancing and keeping upright and getting into some kind of funky position so you can kind of force yourself into a deep squat. You don't want that. You want the deep squat to come very comfortably, but also get that stretch and be able to relax while you're doing it. So the first side shot is I'll start out wide. So when I mean wide, I don't normally squat in this position here. It's a little bit more narrow here. I'll find my ideal squat position, and that's typically where my end stretch will kind of be. But I'll start out wide, and what I'll do is I'll grab this rig and I'm going to lean back, take my feet out nice and wide, and I'm gonna sit into that stretch. What I'm focusing on is not just dropping into that hip sockets and just try to barrel through the pain. You don't want to do that. You want to stay relaxed. You want to have good control over what's going on in your pelvis and your pelvic floor. Try to maintain some kind of slight brace, but ultimately you're trying to relax. So I'm not overarching my low back. I'm not tucking my butt under. I'm really trying to start up nice and tall and keep that neutral spine position all the way into it. I'm using this to allow me to kind of sit on those muscles. Once I've been sitting there for about 30 seconds, I'll kind of move around a little bit. I'll drop my leg, drop this leg, and I'll sit here and I'll kind of go back and forth and allow myself to relax as long as I can keep a good neutral lower back. After about 45 seconds to a minute, I'll stand up and take a break. That's a really good stretch. Your legs might be burning. You'll feel it in your hip and your deep glute area. Now, I'll change my positions. So depending on how wide you went on your first go around will determine kind of where you are for this second one. I prefer to kind of start out wide and then move into my natural squatting position. So let's just say I went as wide as I could, and I've broken it down a few different times where I've started here and I've kind of gone a little bit shallower or a little bit closer, a little bit closer, until now I want to be in my ideal squatting position. And what your ideal squatting position is, again, you'll have to kind of figure out what fits best for you. But for me, it's right around here. I don't have much arch collapse here. I can keep my lower back in a neutral position, and I'm just gonna sit here and I'm gonna hang out as long as I can relax, as long as I can keep my glutes engaged and on and firing and keep my arches from collapsing, and I have control over this position. I'm gonna sit here. Then I'll move around some. At each level of this, whether my feet are wide or they're narrow, I'm gonna do the same kind of moving around, shimmying back and forth, adjusting my weight, adjusting my toes, really trying to engage things and open up that area. The final thing I'll do, once I've kind of gone through about 3 or 4 variations of the depth of my squat as well as how wide my feet are, then I'm gonna do some activation, right? Because with more mobility comes more responsibility when it comes to building strength and being able to support and stabilize this new range of motion. So for me, what I'll tend to do is I'll get at the end of each width, so I'll do one here, here, and I'll get narrower and narrower. Let's say I'm finishing up at this one here. I'm gonna get into my good squat position, and I'm trying to engage my glutes, engage my hips, take my knees and push them out, ripping the ground apart with my feet. I'm gonna go from here, and I'm gonna drive up, drive, not using my hands, just using the muscles that I'm now or that I have been stretching. I'll go back down, nice comfortable position. I'll go down, engaging my glutes, engaging my hips, driving my knees out. And then I'm gonna hold this for 2 seconds, drive, 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 drive. And I'm essentially using the muscles that I've been stretching. So I'm getting in this low position. From there, when I'm done holding it for a few rounds of 1 to 2 minutes, I'm gonna finish up my whole stretching routine with that muscle activation drills. Again, you can do it at each stage of how wide your feet are, or you can just wait until you get into your ideal squatting position. I love doing this whether it is after a workout or kind of in between me sitting down at my desk throughout the day working. I'll kind of do something similar to this, stretching, activation, and then kind of going about my day. It's a great way to wake yourself up. So that's it. That is the deep squat hip stretch. Try it out. Let me know what you think. If you have something better, something that you'd like to add to this specific, very simple approach to stretching out this area, let me know in the comment section below.